Okay, I want to start with a specific image from what? Just a few days ago.
The Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl. You're sitting there, you're watching arguably the single most expensive media environment on the entire planet.
Right, the pinnacle.
The pinnacle.
Yeah.
You're expecting the kind of ads that set the tone for the next, I don't know, 12 months of culture. And instead, you're looking at a screen filled with what The Verge called, and I love this word, slop.
It was jarring, wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
we all went into this year expecting the AI Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was the narrative.
The expectation was, generative video, synthetic audio, this was all going to unlock some new level of creativity. And instead, we just hit a wall.
A very, very expensive wall. And slop is such a great word for it because it doesn't just mean bad.
Yeah.
It implies something messy, unrefined, and, well, frankly, kind of insulting.
It does. And Digiday had a similar take. They pointed out that the ads that were really leaning on those synthetic visuals didn't feel futuristic at all. They just felt cheap.
They use the phrase vaguely off.
And that vaguely off feeling, that's the key. We used to talk about the uncanny valley with, robots.
Sure.
That feeling you get when something is almost human, but not quite.
Huh?
Well, now we're the brand uncanny valley.
Huh, that's good.
When a huge company puts out an ad that has that shimmering effect or that weird flat lighting you see in AI video, it sends a terrible signal. It signals laziness.
And that's the core conflict for everyone listening, right? Because we're always talking on here about leverage, about using tools to get efficient. But now the market is screaming back at us, if we can see the tool, we don't trust you.
That is the authenticity pivot we have to get into today. It's a hard correction in the market. You, our listener, you're caught between needing that speed and the absolute requirement for what I'm calling human proof.
It's like this suspicion fog has just rolled in and covered everything.
That's exactly the term The Verge used.
Yeah.
A suspicion fog.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really dangerous for marketers. Because the fog doesn't just obscure the obviously bad AI ads. It's starting to cloud how people see legitimate high-end visual effects work, too.
Right, because once your brain's default setting flips to, is this fake, you start seeing it everywhere. You could have a beautifully shot commercial, real actors, real set, but if the lighting is a little too
The
perfect...
brain just flags it. That looks like AI.
Yeah.
And so the very idea of premium has flipped on its head. For 20 years, premium meant polished, perfect, glossy.
High production value.
Exactly. In 2026, premium means proven real. It means flaws. It means seeing pores on a person's face. It means texture.
So if I'm running a business, I can't just throw out my AI tools. The efficiency is too good.
Yeah.
So where's the line? How do you use the tech without falling into this trap?
The strategy that's emerging is something called off the label. Think of it like a fancy restaurant.
Okay.
The menu doesn't say made with an industrial stand mixer, even though the chef absolutely used one.
Yeah, you just list the fresh ingredients.
Exactly. You have to create a back-of-house versus front-of-house rule for your AI.
So back of house is for efficiency.
Go wild. Use it for scripting, for generating 50 different hooks, for analyzing customer data, for testing ad variants. That is all back-end stuff the customer never sees.
But the front of house, the actual thing the customer sees, that pixel on their screen, that has to be real.
It has to be grounded in reality.
Yeah.
The brands that are going to win in the short term are the ones shipping what we call truth-based creative.
So what does that mean in practice?
It means, if you're a plumber, don't generate a video of a plumber. Film your actual guy in his messy uniform fixing a real leak. The shaky camera, the imperfect audio.
These are trust signals now.
They're proof of existence.
Mhm.
It's amazing that low production value is becoming a shortcut for truth. But it means the most valuable thing in this new world isn't just creativity, it's evidence.
Evidence.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing AI can't fake perfectly yet.
Evidence is the scarcity. And the market always values what's scarce.
Okay, so we've got this trust leak from bad AI creative, but that's not the only place people are leaking money. While you're busy making your ads look human, you could be just hemorrhaging cash on the acquisition side.
Absolutely. Having the most authentic creative in the world doesn't matter if your bidding strategy is a mess. You're just lighting cash on fire.
Which is a perfect transition to this big update from Google Ads. Search Engine Land called it a potential guesswork killer.
Which is a bold claim, but it might be accurate.
It seems like it. We're talking about the new feature for valuing new customers based on return on ad spend, or ROAS. Now, target ROAS isn't new.
No, we've had that for years. But applying it specifically to new customer acquisition, That's the game changer.
Because it solves that classic problem for small and medium businesses.
The blended ROAS trap.
Right. Your campaign looks great, you're getting a 400% return, but you dig in, and 90% of those sales are from existing customers who probably would bought from you anyway.
Yes. You are paying Google for the privilege of marketing to your own loyalists. The big companies, the enterprise guys, they had complex ways around this.
Offline data, Salesforce integrations, lifetime value models.
Stuff that most businesses just don't have.
Yeah.
So they guess. They just set a flat CPA target and hope.
So how does this new tool fix that?
It basically democratizes that new customer signal. Google uses its own data like 540 days of activity to figure out who's truly new to your brand. And the magic is you can assign a specific ROAS value just for that new segment.
So I can tell the algorithm, look, I need a 300% return on my existing customers, but for a verified new person, I'm willing to break even or even lose a little because I know their long-term value is way higher.
Precisely. You're giving the machine permission to bid aggressively for growth without destroying your overall profitability. It turns new customer acquisition from a total guessing game into a simple math equation.
It's removing the guesswork. And in a year where ad costs are all over the place, you can't afford to bid blindly.
You really can't.
Okay, speaking of costs being all over the place, let's go back to the Super Bowl for a second. We talked about the visual slop, but Marketing Brew pointed out another trend. They called it the bargain bowl.
This is one of those strategies that is so smart and so simple in hindsight.
A bunch of major brands just skipped the TV ads entirely.
They skipped the $7 million for 30 seconds broadcast slot. Easily a $10 million savings when you factor in production.
But they didn't just go home.
No, they executed what you could call a second screen interception. They knew that everyone watching the game is also on their phone.
Checking stats, texting, scrolling social media.
So they bought the attention around the event without paying the massive toll to get in the event. They hijacked the cultural moment.
It's digital arbitrage, really. But for the listener who isn't choosing between a Super Bowl ad and buying a yacht, how does this apply?
The principle is exactly the same. Every single industry has its own Super Bowl. It could be a local festival, a big trade show, Black Friday. The bargain bowl strategy says, don't try to outbid the giants for the main event. Instead, you blanket the attention on the edges.
So if there's a huge conference in Las Vegas, you don't pay 50 grand for a booth. You run geo-fenced ads to the phones in the hotels and restaurants around the conference center.
You become the second screen for that event. But, and this is where most people fail when they try this, you absolutely have to nail the fulfillment.
What do you mean by fulfillment?
When you hijack attention like this, you're getting a spike of very high intent but also very distracted traffic. If they click your ad and the page is slow or the checkout is confusing,
They're gone. They just bounce right back to what they were doing.
instantly. The brands that won the bargain bowl had tight, simple offers. One click, clear value, done. If your front door is locked, it doesn't matter how great your party is.
Okay, so that's a huge piece of the puzzle. We've got the authenticity pivot for creative, the new tool for bidding, and the bargain bowl for distribution. But there's one more piece, and this one feels, well, it feels bigger. The whole shift in search itself.
The move from keywords to concepts.
Exactly. Search Engine Journal is showing that local rankings are being fundamentally rewritten. It's not about 10 blue links anymore. It's about being the one answer an AI, like Gemini or a chatbot, serves up.
And that's where this idea of a reputation signal stack becomes absolutely essential. We have to stop thinking about optimizing for search engine spiders.
And start optimizing for large language models.
Right, so what's the difference? A spider counts your keywords. An LLM looks for patterns of trust. It's trying to figure out the probability that your business is the best, most reliable answer.
And a huge part of that probability comes from reviews, but not just the star rating.
No, a 5-star rating with 3 reviews from 2 years ago is a dead signal. It looks stale. Or worse, it looks like you went out of business.
The algorithm wants proof of life.
That's why we've put together this reputation signal stack. It's a simple weekly routine, maybe 30 to 45 minutes tops. And it's designed to feed the AI the fresh signals it's looking for.
Okay, let's walk through the stack. What's step 1?
Step 1 is the ask. 2 review asks per week, per location. And the key is latency. You have to send that request, text or email, within 24 hours of the service.
Why only 2? Why not just blast your whole customer list?
Because that leads you straight into the trap of the next component, velocity.
Okay.
People mess this up all the time. If you have 0 reviews for 6 months, And then suddenly you get 55-star reviews on a Tuesday afternoon. What does that look like to an algorithm?
It looks fake. It looks like you bought them.
Exactly. It triggers that same suspicion fog, but on the machine side. The AI just filters them out. It wants to see a steady trickle, a continuous heartbeat of feedback.
That makes sense. A steady heartbeat proves consistency.
Yeah.
So what's next in the stack?
The reply strategy, you have to reply to every new review. But here's the key. You aren't writing for the customer who left it. You're writing for the AI.
How so?
When you reply to a negative review, you have to be calm, specific, and focused on a solution. The sentiment analysis models are reading your tone. If you sound angry or defensive, that's a massive negative reputation signal. You're teaching the AI that you're a high-conflict business.
Whereas a calm, helpful reply signals reliability.
Exactly. Then you have consistency leaks.
Oh.
This sounds so basic, but it is the #1 killer for local businesses in AI search.
This is the name, address, phone number stuff.
Yep. If your phone number on Facebook is different from your Google business profile, the AI's knowledge graph gets confused. Its confidence score in your business drops. And if it's not 100% sure who you are and where you are, it will not recommend you.
So the weekly task is literally just to check your main listings and make sure they match.
A quick 5-minute audit.
Oh.
And that brings us to the last piece of the stack, the proof asset.
This ties right back to the truth-based creative we started with.
It's the same principle. Once a week, publish one piece of visual evidence, a before and after photo, a picture of your team at a job site, a short video answering one common question. This tells the search engine, we are here, we are active, we are doing real work.
It feels like the one thread connecting all of this, from Super Bowl ads to Google bidding to this reputation stack, is a shift away from optimizing for impressions.
And toward optimizing for trust.
Yeah.
That's the defining strategic shift of this year. We spent a decade chasing eyeballs. Now, since AI can generate infinite content to distract those eyeballs, the only currency that matters is, can I trust what I'm seeing?
Which brings me to the final thought I want to leave everyone with. It came from a community discussion, and it's been stuffed in my head ever since.
The top 3 scenario.
The top 3 scenario. Picture it. A customer asks their AI assistant, who's the best home builder near me? The AI does its thing, processes all the data, and it serves up a short list. 3 companies.
And you made the list. You're in the running.
You're on the list. But now the human has to choose. They're looking at these 3 little profiles. What is the one signal that actually wins them the click?
It's a terrifying question. It's probably not your price, and it's definitely not your polished logo.
I think it's the human proof. It's the one profile that has a photo from last week of a real crew pouring a real foundation next to a review from a real person that sounds specific and, a little messy, not perfectly generated.
That's the audit. If you stripped away all the tech, all the marketing polish, is there enough visible truth in your digital footprint to win the sale?
Because you have to assume the customer thinks everything is AI-generated slop.
And if you look like slop,
You lose.
simple as that.
That's the mission, then. Clear the fog, prove the truth. Thanks for breaking this all down.
My pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.